Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and I've got another great video for you guys to kind of help you with your rookie drafts that have already maybe occurred or happening this next week, this weekend, whatever it might be for you guys. So hopefully that helps you guys out and gives you some good advice to hopefully maybe avoid some of these receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends that I'm not in love with this draft based off their ADP. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Daniel Woodmore, who won the jersey contest for the quarterback who they thought were going to be the first one to pick, which was Desmond Ridder, in the third round, actually. So congratulations. I'll be shipping out that jersey to you shortly. So make sure you send a photo. Let me know you got it. So congratulations. Thank you. I'll be doing more contests in the future. But again, thank you guys so much for that. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so these are my top 5 rookies that I'm trying to avoid this draft, right? So I've probably done, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 drafts so far, and I've obviously done all kinds of research looking at rankings and all kinds of different stuff. And based off of ADP, these are the 5 rookies that I'm trying to avoid in my draft. Not to say they're not good rookies that have potential, but based off their ADP, I'm not drafting them. I believe in value. And for me, there's certain things that I'm not going to draft I'm not going to reach. Now, sometimes based off of what's happening in this draft, maybe the first round receivers, you can kind of intertwine a little bit, right? They're obviously your top probably 3 or 4. But one of the receivers I'm not falling in love with in the first round is going to be George Pickens. Now, ADP has him at 1.11. So 111 right now, which kind of worries me. I don't believe he's a first round talent when it comes to fantasy right now. I think he's more mid 2s. I do think there's a lot of value with George Pickens. The problem that I have with Pickens is he's just too high right now in the draft. I wouldn't grab him. You've got players like James Cook who's falling behind him, which I would rather have James Cook. I think the potential with Buffalo is a lot higher. Look, George Pickens is a very talented receiver coming out of Georgia, but the fear that I have with him currently is he still have to compete with Chase Claypool. You got obviously Deontay Johnson, and the fact that you have an unknown at quarterback, right? Trubisky obviously signed a 2-year contract expecting to possibly be the bridge, but they drafted pretty high getting Kenny Pickett. So there's a really good chance that Pickett may even start, and obviously he has his own concerns. There's a lot, obviously nobody loves the quarterbacks that came to this rookie draft, but he was the most polished going into it, and Pittsburgh does a great job at doing their due diligence, right? They're going through and making sure that these are the right players for the team. They're always a winning organization. So I'm not saying, Pickett's not going to be a great ball player going into this, but I'm not falling in love with George Pickens in the first. I'm in the 111. I would rather have him in the mid second to even late second. I have seen him fall there, and again, he's definitely worth that grab. But for me, I'm kind of avoiding him unless he falls a little bit later into the second round, just because I feel there are other value that you can get. Even if you're in a super flex, there's players like Malik Willis who's fallen behind him. Even Kenny Pickett in some weird drafts, I've seen him fall into the second round. So again, George Pickens, I love the talent. I love what he can do. And the fact that Deontay Johnson may have his last year coming up based off the fact that he's going to be a free agent the following year, George Pickens may still be there. Deontay may not. So there is value in him. I just don't like him at the 111. Now, another player I'm not crazy about, again, this is all based off of ADP. A lot of it has to do with ADP and even just where they went. I don't like Matt Corral at this particular spot. Right now, he's the ADP of 213. 3-1. Sorry, I was thinking I'm in a 14 league. A 3-1. It's okay, right? It's okay. But I don't have Matt Corral even starting this season. And maybe in the potential, here's what I feel. Darnold gets the job. Right? I think Darnold obviously is the better quarterback at this particular moment. What I do have concerns with Carolina is the fact that Carolina could be one of those teams that may be near the bottom, right? They may not have a great record going into the season. They don't have a lot going on right now. Not saying they're going to tank, but the fact is, depending on what happens with their record and how they're performing, they may be in the run for one of those top tier quarterbacks going into the draft next season. Say that happens, which is a very good chance. Now they're going to go after a Bryce Young or somebody like that. Matt Corral now is insignificant. Okay. So Matt Corral is one of those guys that I can, feel comfortable drafting in the late third. I've even seen him become just someone you pick up off of waivers. I don't believe he's going to be the starter this year. I know a lot of people obviously have given up on Sam Darnold, and I understand that. But Sam Darnold, if you remember at the beginning of last season, probably the first 4 to 5 games, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. As crazy as that sounds, he was doing really well. Again, Christian McCaffrey was there. Then obviously McCaffrey got hurt. And that whole offense changed completely. And that's where you saw obviously the Sam Darnold of the New York Jets kind of show up and reappear. I don't believe he loses his job. I think Matt Corral definitely becomes the bench and the backup. And again, my fear is I just don't like it. I'm seeing players like Tyler Algier and Zamir White falling behind Matt Corral in the draft. I would rather go after one of those players at this particular moment than I would after Matt Corral. So again, that's just my opinion. I just don't think he's worth it at this point. I would rather get him at the end of the third round if possible, just to kind of see, maybe have him sent on your taxi squad. But I'm not crazy about him at all of where he's falling in the draft. And it's just, I would move on to something different. I'd probably go running back or maybe even tight end. Another player I'm not crazy about, and this is all about situation. So Brian Robinson's been falling in the 3-3 ADP aspect. I know a lot of talk has been obviously with Rivera and kind of replicating what he did in Carolina with the fact that he had D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. They're trying to do that same thing with Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. But I think a lot of people are forgetting the fact that McKissick still signed and is back with Washington. McKissick will be the third down back for the most part. And obviously it leaves everything with Gibson, in the first and second down. And Gibson, I believe, as crazy, I know I've seen other people disagree. I believe is a RB1 type talent. I have gone after him in a few of my drafts in my dynasties just because I believe in what he can do. He's got the potential. So you've got an RB1 talent in Gibson. McKissick, obviously being the third down back and, spelling some of the carries from Gibson. Where does Brian Robinson stand in this, right? I don't believe the fact that the Brian Robinson at a 3-3 is not horrible. I'm just not crazy about it. I'm not crazy about drafting him at all. I've done 5 or 6 drafts already. I have not once tried to go after Ryan Robinson. He's been there. I just don't believe it. I just don't see it happening. I'm just avoiding this whole situation in general with Brian Robinson just because I don't know what's going to happen. Now, if you're drafting later on in the season, and what I mean by that is you're drafting August, maybe mini camps happen and there's words and buzz and things like that Brian Robinson's starting to, okay, I feel there is a need there, especially getting him in the third round. But anything before that, don't do it, please. Another guy I have is, Tyron Davis Price is somebody that I'm not touching at all. He is definitely someone I'm completely avoiding. He's been falling in the ADP of 3.6 right now. And the fact that I just don't feel comfortable getting really any running back from San Francisco at this moment. Shanahan runs everything through the hot hand. And right now the hot hand is Elijah Mitchell. Mitchell has done a really good job. He obviously was hurt a little bit. So you had players fill in. Obviously Mostert's not there. You still have Jeff Wilson. You still have Trey Sermon. And now you've got Davis Price. There's just too much going on right there that I don't feel comfortable drafting Davis Price. And even I've seen and I've gotten rid of it because I've always talked him up, but I've gotten rid of Mitchell in a few of my leagues because I'm just worried the fact that Kyle Shanahan and just how he does. They've got a new offensive coordinator, obviously. There's just too much going on in San Francisco that it's too loaded. It's too busy. I don't feel comfortable realistically with any of those running backs. Obviously, Mitchell's your best back coming out of San Fran, but I'm not feeling comfortable at all drafting Davis Price. In a lot of drafts I've done, I've seen him falling completely out. He's just a waiver wire pick. And maybe if you have enough taxi squad spots, sure, maybe you want to pick him up because he's got great talent. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like where he landed, and I think that's where my biggest gripe is. Now, the last guy I have is somebody that I'm avoiding, and I've had to get him once just because of where he fell. It wasn't because of what I really wanted, but the fact that I'm seeing Alec Pierce at the ADP of 210. I'm not in love with Pierce myself. He's only had really one good season, didn't break 1,000 yards. He had 8 touchdowns his last season. And obviously we had Desmond Ridder there, but he only got 21% of his target share. Year before that was 8%. Year before that was 16%. So he's not like getting in just a handful of balls his way. And that says a lot to me. And I obviously, look, Cincinnati doesn't throw the ball a crazy large amount. But the fact is, it's all about target share. Target share is everything. You're not getting the target share that I would say a top wide receiver would really be. And for me, look, I believe in Indianapolis, you've got obviously Michael Pittman. Great receiver. Definitely should be going after him if in any of your leagues. Then you got Paris Campbell. They're not quite giving up on him. I love Paris Campbell. I think he's got the talent. Obviously, he's had some issues kind of staying on the field and hasn't really shown up quite there. And beyond that, it's really it, right? So I understand the need and want to go after Alec Pierce. They think everyone's like, okay, Matt Ryan's there. You got Michael Pittman on the outside. Maybe Pierce falls into the slot. Maybe he falls into the wide receiver 2 spot, and he's gonna have a great season. And that, look, he could prove me wrong, absolutely. But I just don't feel he's gonna beat Paris Campbell. I think he is gonna be the slot receiver. Do I think he's gonna have some value this season? Sure. Again, I would say mid to late 3rd round, Alec Pierce is a great pickup. I think he might even be a little bit of a steal. But I'm not going after him in the 2nd round. And late 2nd round, maybe. I've just seen enough game film that I had him out of my top 10 as far as ranking wide receivers. I had Jalen Tolbert above him, and I still would take Tolbert over him. The fact that he's got going to a Dallas offense that even as the 3rd receiver can produce some solid wide receiver numbers in fantasy. So at the end of the day, fantasy is all about scoring points. And I just don't see Alec Pierce being that guy, even for the future. I just don't quite see it. Obviously, he ran a 4.41. He's got some great talent. I just don't think he's the receiver that's going to demand a lot. I think he's always going to be a wide receiver 3, maybe a wide receiver 2 on certain teams, but I don't believe it at all. So these are my 5 rookies that I'm just not crazy about going into the season, that I'm drafting, that unless they're in the right spot, I am not drafting them at all and avoiding them completely, whether it be their spots, whether it be their ADP, things like that. So hopefully this kind of helped you guys out. Hopefully this kind of give you some insight. If there's other players that you're avoiding, or maybe you have questions about of where you should possibly draft, maybe you're in that particular spot right now, let us know in the comments down below. Or of course you can hit us up in our socials. You've got Twitter and Instagram. You could always hit us up there. Again, feel free to ask away. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys did find this stuff helpful, always hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way it's notified every time we drop a video just like this. And of course, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. We love it. I'll let you guys know when we got another contest coming up. It'll probably be another month or so. We'll do another contest. Obviously, we got a lot of content coming out. I've got some planned videos coming up in the next week or two to, again, help you guys out with your Dynasty. I'll start slowly. I'm still in the process of updating my Dynasty rankings and, of course, redraft rankings. I will be doing some more redraft content as well because we're getting closer and closer to the summertime, so you get some mini camp buzz, which is exciting. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Thank you guys so much for all the love, and I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll catch you guys next time.